It's me, your boy Squints, and today we are going to be talking about my journey as a Holy Paladin. To start things off, it all started with my Zero to Hero challenge, where I decided that I was going to play a spec that I've never played in Mythic Plus before and pug my way from 0 to 3k rating. Until this expansion, I literally did not really ever dabble in Mythic Plus whatsoever. Now, I definitely have played Mythic dungeons and maybe the casual Mythic +2 or +4, but I never really got into it on my Enhancement Shaman. I was just honestly a fairly casual player. But during Dragonflight, me and a group of friends actually really wanted to dive into Mythic Plus, and that's where I became hooked. I started to absolutely love Mythic Plus content, consuming it, playing the game a ton, and trying to improve week after week and season over season. Which led me to Season 3 Dragonflight, where I got my Enhancement Shaman to 3k for the first time ever, which I was super pumped about. Then for fun, I thought it would be really fun to just challenge myself to do it again, but on a spec that I never played, and to actually try and pug my way through it all, since I mainly did this with a group of friends. And after 8 weeks in 77 timed runs, I am happy to say we did it. But I just could not stop there, so I decided to just push it a little bit further to land myself as the 19th ranked Holy Paladin on Bleedinghollow, which put me as a top 1,000 Holy Paladin in North America and top 5,000 in the world. This is crazy to me because my Shaman is also similarly ranked. I hope this encourages any of you out there who may find Mythic Plus intimidating or you've hit a wall. You can do it, trust me. I pugged my way just in 8 weeks from 0 to 3k. And you're probably asking yourself, but Squints, how did you do it? Let alone, how did you do it as someone who's never healed Mythic Plus? Well, let's talk about that. My first advice is to honestly learn the dungeons and learn the encounters. It's important to just understand them on a fundamental level, especially as a healer, because damage is a huge part of the encounters on every trash pull or boss you fight. And as a healer, I would say there's kind of 3 different types of damage you'll deal with throughout an entire dungeon. Now, there's clearly avoidable damage that people just should not stand in, so you never have to heal those, but when you're pugging your way like I did, that's never going to be the case. So avoidable damage, just expect to be healing that to an extent, unless you get really lucky and find a really good group. Otherwise, you're going to be dealing with burst damage is going to come out and deal that damage to a player or to the group. And one thing you have to know in most scenarios is that after that damage is dealt, you are going to have a set amount of time to heal everyone back up before it happens again. So you have to learn not to stress out when all the bars get hit at once, because that's planned and you are going to have time to react. They're not all just instantly going to drop to 0 when that damage comes out. Now, there is some burst damage that has little waves, so you may have to do some spot healing, but again, you're just doing spot healing to keep someone alive, and when the damage is done, you can then push them to full. The other form is constant damage that I would call it, and this is just kind of the damage that a tank will probably just be taking. And in most scenarios, you just have to know the tank and how much you're going to have to heal them. For example, a Bloodless Knight, you're probably not going to have to heal that often. They pretty much keep themselves alive. So as you're playing dungeons and as you're healing all these different types of tanks, really pay attention to how they can sustain their health and take care of themselves. And then lastly, I would say there's dot damage. This is either going to be something you can cleanse, or it's going to be ticking damage that you're just going to have to heal. But sometimes you're going to be able to remove that dot, and other times you may need to sack the target, or you're going to need to bop them. Just try everything out, because something is going to work so you can survive that dot damage. And in some scenarios, when you're starting to push higher keys, it's going to rely on the person you're healing to also use a defensive or use a healing pot. It's just how they scale. It's just how it goes. So as a friendly reminder, not everything is always your fault, but if someone dies or the group wipes, you should always look at your cooldowns to see what you had available to try and help them out the next time. And this leads me into just having a rough plan for all the encounters. You don't need to go in with, I'm using this cooldown at 69 seconds and I'm using this one at 4 minutes and 20 seconds. No, you don't have to do that. Just know that when you're going into a boss fight on Tyrannical Week, that you're going to want these cooldowns available, and vice versa on Fortified Week, that when you go into a trash pool, you're also going to want these cooldowns available. And knowing how to use Daybreak and Divine Toll is super helpful. Like, you as a Holy Paladin, you are going to want to keep Glimmers up on as many targets as you possibly can, so that when you enter an encounter, you could Daybreak early, especially if you know you're going to need those Holy Shocks available. Why would you want to Daybreak a little early on a trash pool? Well, if that trash pool is right before the boss else. You may want a Daybreak earlier before the damage comes out so you can save those Daybreak stacks and use them on Holy Shock so that Daybreak is already refreshing and cooling down so that when you hit the boss encounter, you have them right off the rip, maybe for that big burst of boss damage. So think of things from that perspective. You're always going to want to use your cooldowns, so have a rough idea of when and how you want to use them. It's always best to use them. Don't let them sit, because that was one of the challenges I had to overcome, was using my cooldowns. And when I started using my cooldowns, that is when I started easily clearing 20s and pushing it to 22s and 23s. So really, a big word of advice is just click the damn button. Try it out. See what works. Don't be afraid. Don't be shy. And I'll be honest, there are a lot of toxic people in the community, but there are also some good eggs out there too that gave me tips and advice in dungeons. So don't be intimidated. People are going to help. Some people are going to be mean. It's a game. Whatever. We're all here for fun anyway. Now, I hope you all enjoyed this series, because I'm happy to announce that I will be doing another Zero to Hero next season. And it will once again be on a spec that I have never played before, Mythic Plus, which there's a lot of them, and I have every class at max level now, and the only two specs we can't play is Holy Paladin and Enhancement Shaman. But don't you worry, we have more content coming. That includes class guides updated for Season 4. We're going to work on some Mythic Plus introduction and Mythic Plus dungeon guides for the next season. We are also now going to dabble and dip our toes into Season of Discovery, and you are not going to want to miss out. So smack that like button, kiss the subscribe button, and tickle the bell so you don't miss any of it. And I will see you all in Azeroth.